Hello, welcome to the ERIA video. This video session aims to provide a brief summary of our webinar session on the institutional framework and key building blocks for an integrated regional electricity market. The webinar was held on September 22nd, 2017 from 10 to 11 a.m. GMT plus 7 time. This webinar is part of a project on pre-study survey for AGTP and ATSO. The topic of our research is the institutional framework and key building blocks for an integrated regional electricity market. Participants were representatives from ERIA, EGAT Thailand, SP Group Singapore, and TEPCO. The webinar included discussions on additional explanation regarding the methodology of the pre-study survey, as well as question and answer session. Summary of the methodology used for the pre-survey.
Before distributing the questionnaire to AMS experts for responses, we have received comments concerning the survey. Its accompanied reference material may overload the respondents with too much information about the electricity market integration process and its associated market design. Some of the questions are only relevant to advanced stages of market integration and market development. Thus, AMS experts may not be able to respond. Therefore, we decided to adopt the so-called Delphi method, the principles of which is shown here. The Delphi method is a forecasting method based on the results of questionnaires sent to a panel of experts. Several rounds of questionnaires are sent out, and the anonymous responses are aggregated and shared with the group after each round. In the AGTP and ATSO studies, what we are trying to do is to lay down the foundation for the multilateral electricity trade on APG and its further integration as a regional electricity market. For this purpose, we need to forecast what kind of future regional market we are going to build. Some sort of consensus needs to be formed regarding the key principles, framework, and building blocks of such an integrated market. Delphi method does look appropriate for this purpose. Specifically, as shown on the screen, we are currently conducting the first round of survey. After this, we will summarize and communicate the findings of this round to all participants. The purpose is to identify and show knowledge gaps and opinion gaps. We will develop further references pointing to such gaps for the purpose of narrowing them. After that, we conduct a second round of survey. By this time, it can be assumed that respondents are much better informed regarding the questions and issues raised, and thus they will give more matured responses. Specifically, as shown on the screen, we are currently conducting the first round of survey. After this, we will summarize and communicate the findings of this round to all participants. The purpose is to identify and show knowledge gaps and opinion gaps. We will develop further references pointing to such gaps for the purpose of narrowing them. After that, we conduct a second round of survey. By this time, it can be assumed that respondents are much better informed regarding the questions and issues raised, and thus they will give more matured responses. If consensus regarding the key issues is still not reached, or the researchers found the results not satisfactory, the process can continue to a third round or even more rounds of communications and survey. In this survey, following this method, we will thus later circulate the outcome of the first round, conducting gap analysis and providing further references when and wherever needed. The second round of survey will be conducted, perhaps through teleconference or face-to-face interview between our researchers and the respondents. We hope that the practice could be eventually help us to depict a consistent set of principles, frameworks, and building blocks for ASEAN to develop its own regionally integrated market.
Summary of question and answer session.
First question. Regarding the estimation of available cross-border transmission capacity, is the flow-based approach more superior than the net transfer capacity method? As energy economists, from our perspective, NTC is the most straightforward method for estimating available transmission capacity, and thus perhaps the most feasible at early stage of market development. Flow-based approach has its advantage as the most efficient way of estimating the available transmission capacity, since in reality, the physical electricity flow follow the Kirchhoff's laws and typically go through many possible routes, rather than the one that is stipulated in the commercial transactions or known as the commercial flow. Flow-based method thus may support more extensive and active multilateral trade of electricity. However, we do have received comments from technical experts that flow-based approach is yet to be proved as providing the same level of security to the grid as the NTC method. Second question. Is the compensation of third-party access determined by flow-based approach or net transfer capacity method? There are perhaps two layers of this question. First, how to receive compensation for third-party access, and second, how to determine the rates of compensation. Firstly, in a developed electricity market, the compensation of third-party access is established as transmission rights, either PTR, physical transmission rights, or FTR, financial transmission rights. The TSO is supposed to collect transmission charge from all actual users of transmission capacity. TSO subsequently distributes the revenue from this practice to the rights holders. But of course, before that, the right holder can also choose to sell the right in a secondary market so as to monetize the right. Secondly, regarding the rate of compensation, we have introduced how a developed and competitive market determines it. This figure shows that in the case of transmission constraint, namely not enough interconnector capacity between the two nodes or pricing zones, the value of transmission is the differences in the nodal or zonal prices. Such value is the basis of setting transmission charge. However, if competitive nodal or zonal pricing is not implemented, such as in the early stage of market development, negotiation for each line may be necessary. In this latter case, it is not different than setting a regulated transmission wheeling charge. However, it may have the benefit of encouraging investment in the transmission infrastructure, since regulated wheeling charges typically look more attractive to financial institutes for financing the project. Third question. How is the welfare gain distributed among the participating countries of a regionally integrated electricity market? In the simplified case, as shown in the screen, the welfare gain of trading is represented by the two colored triangles. In the competitive market, pricing is determined as the locational marginal prices following the marginal cost curves. Importing node gains the triangle area below its marginal cost curves, and exporting node gains the triangle area above its marginal cost curves. The area of triangle, and thus how much each trading side gains, depend on the shape of the marginal cost curve. In reality, if the pricing of electricity is not based on competitive market, then the distribution of the welfare gain of trading is subject to the outcome of negotiation among the trading parties. Fourth question. How many participants or respondents expected for this survey? We are expecting all workshop participants of the AGTP and ATSO projects will help us respond to the survey. Fifth question. When and how should we deliver the responses to the survey? We hope that by 29 September 2017, we can receive the responses for our first round of survey. As we have explained, please do not concern too much if you find it difficult to answer the questions. For the first round of survey, receiving responses is more important than receiving the right responses. So please do respond to us anyway. All responses should be sent to HWG2 contact person.
Thank you very much for your kind attention. Should you have any further questions or need further clarifications, please submit your inquiries to our contact researchers.